Hello, it's Thursday, February 11th, 2021. My name is Dr. Steve Clausen, and my topic today is how to prepare for the next pandemic or next business slowdown. Now, we're all familiar with what's gone on for the last year, and it's gone on longer than any of us could have imagined. We were initially told 17 days. It's now closing on 365 days and counting. It's not going away anytime soon. And that being the case, we've got to prepare for when the next pandemic hits after we get out of this pandemic. This was the promise of today, and I'm going to deliver on that promise. My name is Dr. Steve Clausen. I've been a business development consultant for about 29 years, going on 30 years very shortly. And I'm here to help. And if you can take a few nuggets away from today, you will be better off for it. And I don't care if you're celebrating your first week in business or your 30th year in business. My goal is to deliver to you to the greatest extent possible today. I am doing this to support the Elk Grove Food Bank and Family Services. The executive director is a lady by the name of Marie Giacchino. I love her to death. You've received the link, and many of you have already donated, and I genuinely appreciate it. I will personally be writing another check to the Elk Grove Food Bank later today. The entire purpose of this is to give you something that you can take away and leverage this evening or tomorrow morning in your business that will make you money. Yes, I'm going to be referring to notes. This is not supposed to be a completely polished sales transaction, and in fact, it's not a sales transaction at all. This is an educational video. If you were hoping for a sales positioning video, you've come to the wrong place. My goal is several-fold during this talk today. The first one is I want to help you regain your footing. A lot of business owners, more than I even care to think about it, makes me physically sick when I think about the generational wealth that has been taken away during this entire pandemic, the number of families and children that have been injured as a direct result, and the number of employees who are out now looking for someplace else to work. They thought they had it all taken care of, as did many of the owners. I also want to help owners and their staffs help regain some mental focus. A lot of us have lost it. And if you watch the news every night, like I don't, the news is taking away a lot of your mental focus. All they're letting you know is how bad things are. In fact, I don't think it should be called the news. I think it should be called the bad news. I don't personally watch it. It's been over a year since I've watched the news, and believe me, I haven't missed much of any level of importance. You won't either. I would invite you to turn the news off and not turn it on again and watch some sitcom before you go to bed. I don't care if it's mindless. Something to make you laugh before you go to sleep guarantees you will sleep better. I want to help you find some hidden and unrealized income in your business. It's there. You don't know where to look for it. And if you are looking for it, in many cases, folks are not looking for it properly. I'm going to help you with that today. I guarantee it. I'm going to help you understand the value of numbers and knowing what these numbers are. I'm not going to make you an accountant. It's not that sort of number I'm talking about. I'm going to tell you how to raise some of your prices, because there are prices that can be easily raised and no one will complain. I'm going to talk to you about your staffing. I'm going to talk to you about your mindset. I'm going to talk to you about sales and profit increases. And I'm also going to mention joint ventures. So we've got a very heady time here. We're going to take about 30 minutes to 50 minutes. We're going to go through these things. Be sure you take notes. And should you want to get in touch with me when this is all over, my name is Stephen Clausen. My telephone number is 916-230-0176. I can be reached at Stephen, Steven, Clausen, CLAUSON.com. There's a link there to email me and my calendar. So let's get going. Let's start. We've already started with our goals. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what I see folks doing right now is they're putting all of their effort into finding a new customer. Hey, I'll be the first one to tell you, having a new customer is great. There's very few things that are more affirming than when someone comes into your business and says, yes, I want to buy your product. It just makes you feel good. What most folks don't do is they don't realize and examine what it took to get that individual to come in off the street, either physically or electronically, and buy your product, and what it costs them to do that. If you ever watch the Shark Tank, one of the first questions they ask you is, what are your lead acquisition costs? And this is something most owners never pay enough attention to. Your new customer is going to be the most expensive customer you will ever sell to. They don't know who you are. They are somewhat distrustful at the beginning of the relationship, so they buy less and they take more time. That time costs you money. So what do? Everybody wants new customers. Well, that's great, but what have you done recently with the customers that you have or that you used to serve but are no longer serving? Do you have a list of them? Well, there's a great deal of value in taking your customer base and putting it down in an email list and even in a snail mail list, and then talking to those people more frequently. People that know you, people that trust you, people that you've done work or sold things to, they're a known entity and you are a known entity to them. They've got a very good idea what it is they're going to be getting from you and what they want from you, and the transaction just goes a lot smoother. Above and beyond that, they don't take so much of your staff's time, and that's a big win for you. Take the time. It's heavy lifting initially to put together that database, but once you have it together, you can reuse it over and over and over, and there are email programs out there that make the process really simple. A word of caution: do not try to send large groups of emails out without using a program that falls within the anti-spam laws. The penalties can be quite significant. And not only that, it's a lot more work. I've had an internal email list myself for about 14 years, and I can tell you it works. Each one of my clients has one of these lists. One of my clients has got an email list of over 20,000. Needless to say, being able to leverage that list at a moment's notice has a lot of value. That is one way to get in touch with your past customers. Another way is snail mail. Sometimes snail mail makes more sense than email. We can talk about that one-on-one, but it comes down to knowing who your audience is and understanding what it is your audience is buying from you. Those are critical things to know. Now, when it comes to new customers, one of the big questions you've got to ask is, okay, what is the annual cash value of a new customer? Said in another word, said in a different way. If someone comes to see you as a new customer, how many times are they realistically going to buy from you that year? Well, if it's 3 or 4, you now have a much better baseline to run off of. Well, if they buy from you 4 times during the year and the average transaction is $50, that means they're going to be giving you $200 that year. Well, during that first year, if out of that $200, you run a 25% profit, that means that you're going to make about a $50 profit. Well, during that first year, is there any reason you couldn't spend $25 to get a customer that's going to give you $200 with a $50 profit? Shoot, if you spend $25 to get them, you're still making very good money. So put that as part of your formula. I talk to a lot of folks who want to figure out how little to spend to get a new customer, and that's really not a good question. The better question is, how much can I reasonably afford to spend to get a new customer and have it still make sense? The more you can afford to spend, the more money you're going to make long term, especially when you do a good job. The second number I want to know is I want to know how long that individual is realistically going to be a customer of mine. Now, if you've done a good job, you're probably going to lose very few people to attrition or someone looking for a better price. I know Ruth Chris and Morton stay in business because they do a very good job and they've got a very high price point. I promise you can buy steaks in other places, but they do what's necessary to put a barrier around their customer and not let their customer leave. And they know approximately how many times that customer is going to return that year. I believe at Ruth Chris, the average number is around 3.5, but I could be wrong on that. But if you look at someone who comes in to spend $200 and they're there 2.5 times, that means they're going to spend $700 that year. That's a chunk. That's a chunk of money. So now you can rely on that, and you've got a pretty good idea what that customer is going to be worth, especially if they stay around for 10 years. That's a $7,000 customer. That is significant. Once you know that number, along with your customer acquisition cost, the rest of it gets pretty simple. Not only that, when you know those numbers, it helps you determine the long-term value of your business and about the amount of money you're going to be able to take home out of that business. Those are valuable pieces of information that you can leverage. Now, most owners don't look at their business from the right point of view, I have found. They come in every day, it's a very mundane day, and they look at what they have to do in their business. Reasonable conversation, I completely get it. The question very few of them have, and the question I would invite you to consider, is what can you do today to work on your business? In versus on. I will tell you, the people that work on their business and know what they're doing, they do very, very well because they are working what I call the right end of the problem. They want their business to grow. They're in charge of growth. So they spend their time thinking about what can I do today to make my business grow? Not what can I do to sell a piece of paper, or if you're a chiropractor, adjust a spine, or if you're a personal injury attorney, work on a case. What can you do to actually move the ball forward as far as working on your business? Write a piece of marketing, talk to a customer, train a staff member. Those are all examples of working on your business. That's where the secret sauce is. That's where the profit is. That's what's going to drive you down the road and someday allow you to retire wealthy. And that's what it is for a lot of folks. Now, when you get all these things working together and everything's flowing like you wanted to, at that point in time, you can start developing systems within your business. Now, when you start to develop systems in your business, a big thing happens that very few people realize. When everyone is functioning in the same manner, much like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were functioning when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you're a Chiefs fan, I apologize for even bringing this up, but everybody was on the same page. They were all trained. They all had a basic script they were going off of. And at the end of the day, they knew what was going to matter and they knew what their ultimate goal was. The coach didn't have to be on the field with them. The coach was in the locker room, but when they got onto the field, everybody knew what their assignment was and everyone was able to deliver. This is what you want out of your business. Putting systems in place allows your business to do what it is it's supposed to do, and you're able to get the result from your business that you really, really want. I encourage you to look at the systems that you have in your business. Now, a system comes down to anything. A system comes down to a new customer comes into your business. For instance, you've got a men's clothing store. If the first question you ask is, have you been to can I help you? That's a closed-end question. That's a yes or no question. And at that point in time, they say no, and you really don't have much that you can reasonably say. However, if the first time they come into your business, you say, what can I show you that you haven't seen before? Well, now they've got to answer you and they've got to actually engage in that conversation. That's called scripting, and that is very effective. This is what the major players in any industry do, is they actually engage with their customer as opposed to determining what their customer wants and delivering only that. If you want to succeed, you've got to deliver more for your customer. You actually have to help your customer, because frequently when a customer comes into your business, they don't even know exactly what they want. They just know they're looking for something. You can go through areas like your strategic pricing. Now, I went in to buy a battery for the key fob for my car the other day. And when I got there, the lady looked at it. She had to do a little bit of research on how to install the battery. It took probably 15 minutes. When she was done, she replaced the battery. She handed me the key back, and it was $5. She spent 15 minutes of her time on a $5 transaction. Now, had this, and I'm sure they have not raised their prices on car batteries in a long time. Now, I wonder how many fewer transactions they'd have if they increased their price to $10 or $15. Now, I can tell you, not many. I fully expected to spend $15 to $20. When she charged me $5, that was fine with me, but is it fine with her? And she was one of the owners. This was a price she could have tripled. And I'm absolutely convinced there's not a soul alive that would say that's outrageous and turn and walk away. I didn't care, and I don't think most other people would care either. That's the cost of just getting something done. So this is how you can strategically raise prices, which many of us haven't done in a long time. You can strategically raise a price and no one will bat an eye. You can also look at strategic product changes. Well, if you are a heating and air conditioning company, you know what they want to buy. The question you can ask is, what else do they want to buy? Now, I worked with a very large heating and air conditioning company in Rockland. When I started working with them, they had 7 employees. Well, I worked with them for almost 20 years. When I was done working with them and the owners got ready to sell, they had 148 employees. They were across all different spectrums of business. And I will tell you, selling and servicing heating and air conditioning systems was not the primary focus of their business anymore. And when I started with them, it was their only focus of business. Well, things changed. I knew what they wanted, what people wanted to buy. I had to learn what else they wanted to buy. Turns out they wanted to buy solar panels, they wanted to buy insulation, they wanted to buy ducting, they wanted to buy siding, they wanted to buy cool roofs, they wanted to buy LED lighting, they wanted to buy appliances, they wanted to buy siding, and just about anything else to do with their home. They trusted them in the HVAC department. Well, we were able to expand that trust into something different. We did. Everybody went to the bank, and guess what? The customers were happier. Everybody won, and it was a good deal for all of us. So now it comes down to, okay, you've got these things solidified. What can you do next? Well, one of my specialties, and this is something I take a great deal of pride in, is walking into a business, and if they've been around more than a couple of years, I can guarantee to find them a minimum of $45,000 to well over $100,000 in undiscovered and unrealized income in their business, simply by knowing where to look and knowing what actions to take. Well, one of the first places I look is your database. And we've already touched on this, but when you start looking at a customer's database, you start to find a lot of similarities and a lot of people who love you and want to give you more money. Well, once we've established that, we start going out with better offers. Well, the first time that we did this for a client recently ended up with over $30,000 in sales. And that was the first time we had touched it. An absolutely life-changing level of business for this individual. And boy, that made him excited about the process. I trust it'll make you excited about the process as well. And you know, there's a lot of industries out there, such as the heating and air conditioning industry, that when a business gets ready to be sold, there's a couple of things they look at. One of the big things they look at is their customer database, and that's the database that can be emailed or snail mailed, and the number of people they have under residential service agreements. Well, Both of these together mean guaranteed income for the buyer. I cannot urge you enough to have this information done and ready, because this will get you through the lean times, because people are going to be buying something, and you can leverage these people frequently for free. And I love the word free. I don't know why that is. Another thing that you can do is you can put together joint ventures. Now, this is another area. I've created kind of a cottage industry with it. And I did this with an HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning contractor in the Bay Area. Well, I looked at what he drove, and both him and his wife drove very nice Mercedes automobiles. So I asked him about that. He said, "Oh yeah, a friend of mine owns the dealership." I said, "Really?" So we got to talking more, and it seems his friend uses his HVAC services. So my question was, does your friend with a Mercedes dealership have a database? And he goes, "Yeah, he does. I'm on it." I said, "Okay. Do you suppose he would endorse you?" He goes, "Oh yeah, he loves me." So what I did is I set up a joint venture between the Mercedes dealership and the HVAC contractor. They cross-endorsed one another to their different lists. Very profitable for both of them, and there's no reason this won't work for you as well. We know we can do this. We know how to do it. The other thing that we can do once we start doing this, especially with your database, is we can start figuring out how to increase the frequency of sale. Now, if you are a restaurant, again, I've referenced Ruth Chris earlier. Well, let's say you're not quite as high an end a restaurant and you are an Applebee's, and your average customer comes in 6 times a year. Well, if you can get them from 6 times a year, invite them back, give them a promotion or whatever, something like that, and get them to come back 9 times a year, which is only 3 more times, which is just not that hard. Once you've done that, you've now increased your customer value by 50%, 50%. Well, if you can increase everything across the board by 30%, how much more money do you make? Well, if your profit rate is 25%, you can see the numbers get really good really quick. So think about that. Think about putting those two factors together, because they work, and they work very, very well. And when you can leverage a competitor is not a competitor, but someone with another list, along with your list, along with sales training, along with database management, along with strategic pricing, that allows you to bring in something else, which is something else they want to buy that you don't currently sell. Again, I'm going to look back on my example with my heating and air conditioning contractor. Well, when I first started working with them, they sold and serviced heating and air conditioning equipment. And we figured out everything else we could sell them. They actually wanted to buy. They appreciated the fact that we could handle all these things for them. Your customer will as well. There's big dollars in this, and people start to look to you as the expert. This is fun. This makes sense. And guess what? This is what's going to ward you off from the next pandemic. Now, I say next pandemic. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know whether it's going to be a pandemic, a business slowdown. Maybe somebody gets ill. Maybe someone dies. Maybe the industry is declared illegal. Maybe a huge competitor comes in. Any of these things. It is your responsibility, in my opinion, to make your business as profitable as you can, to train your staff, and to move forward and become wealthy. Now, I get pushback from folks about training their staff because they don't like the idea of spending the money that it takes to train their staff on the off chance that their staff will eventually leave. Guess what? They will eventually leave. I guarantee it. But here's my question. Do you want to train your staff to sell more, to interact with the customer more, to gather new names, and possibly take the chance they're going to leave? Or do you want to take another risk, not train your staff? They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to gather a name. They don't know how to make anyone happy. On the off chance that they'll stay, the staying is more expensive than the leaving, I promise. Spend the money on your staff. Let them be trained. Let them work for you to do the things you actually need done. Okay, This brings me pretty much close to the end of what I wanted to talk about. Now, this morning we were let down by Zoom. Zoom couldn't figure it out. Zoom sometimes has issues. I've dealt with it. We've probably, everyone on this call, everyone who watches this is used to that. They've been the recipient of a mistake. It's the electronic age. Everything isn't perfect. I again want to thank you for watching. I again want to thank you for donating to the Elk Grove Food Bank. And if there's any way that I can help you, I will give you an hour of my time. All you need to do is call me, 916-230-0176. If you want to get on my calendar and schedule, you can go on to calendly.com/Steven Clausen. That's STEVEN CLAUSON. We'll get together. I'll give you an hour of my time. And during that hour of my time that I'm going to do for free, I promise to give you at least 3 actionable things that you can do as soon as you get off the call to help you make more money. That's what this is all about for me, between helping you make more money and helping the Elk Grove Food Bank and Marie Giacchino feed more people. That makes me a happy guy. Be successful, take care of your families, and be safe. I genuinely appreciate you watching.